So, you've watched Inglourious Basterds and thought, no way any of that actually happened, right? Well, not so fast. Believe it or not, a lot of Tarantino's wildest ideas are rooted in real history. Not exactly the same, of course, but close enough to make you go, wait, that part was real? Stick around till the end, where we break down what really happened, what Tarantino totally made up, and the surprising truth hiding behind all the chaos. The Jew hunter is fake. Let's start right at the beginning of Inglourious Basterds, that intense farmhouse scene. You know the one. It's calm and quiet until a Nazi officer shows up, shares a friendly glass of milk with the farmer, and then casually reveals he knows there are people hiding under the floorboards. That officer? He is Hans Landa, also known as the Jew hunter. Now here's the thing. Hans Landa is totally made up. He's not a real guy. Quentin Tarantino created him from scratch to be the perfect movie villain, charming, terrifying, way too smart, and fluent in, like, every language. He's not based on a specific Nazi officer, but he does represent the kind of stuff that really happened during World War II. In real life, the Nazis did send people out to hunt down Jewish families hiding in homes, barns, cellars, everywhere. Officers, soldiers, and local collaborators were all involved. Families were betrayed, found, and deported to camps, so even though Landa himself isn't real, the horrible thing he does in that opening scene, sadly, very real. Some people think he might have been loosely inspired by Alois Brunner, a real Nazi who helped deport Jews from France. But Landa is more of a mix, not just based on one guy, but more like a scary blend of a bunch of bad ones. And later in the movie, when Landa flips sides and tries to make a deal with the Americans to save his own skin? Yeah, that's fictional too, but not totally crazy. Some real Nazis did try to escape punishment or negotiate their way out near the end of the war. Just not with dramatic movie deals and fancy vacation plans like Landa. So yeah, Hans Landa isn't someone you'll find in a history book, but the stuff he does? That part hits close to reality. Tarantino just wrapped all those real horrors into one sharp-dressed, smooth-talking, truly terrifying character. Real Inglourious Basterds unit. Inglourious Basterds wasn't pulled entirely out of thin air. There actually was a real-life group, kind of like the Bastards, just without all the scalping and dramatic one-liners. They were called X-Troop, a secret British commando unit formed during World War II, and get this, it was made up mostly of Jewish refugees who had escaped Nazi Germany and Austria. These guys had lost families, homes, everything. So when Winston Churchill's government asked them to join a special team to fight the Nazis, they didn't hesitate for a second. But here's where things get interesting. X-Troop didn't run around like Brad Pitt's gang of Nazi scalpers. They were spies, not showmen. They trained for recon missions, sabotage, intelligence gathering, and interrogation. Basically, if the Bastards were chaos with a knife, X-Troop was quiet precision with a notebook and a silenced pistol. And to stay undercover, they even used fake British names, because if they were captured, being Jewish refugees would have meant instant death. In the lead-up to D-Day, these guys were sent behind enemy lines in France to gather info on Nazi troop movements. Out of 88 men, 21 were killed and 22 were wounded. So yeah, it was dangerous work. They weren't movie heroes blowing up theaters. They were real soldiers doing the hard secret stuff that actually helped win the war. So when you watch Inglourious Basterds, just remember, the whole Jewish soldiers fighting Nazis idea actually came from somewhere real. Tarantino just took that quiet, true story and said, cool, but what if they also took down Hitler in a movie theater? Real group-inspired Inglourious Basterds. The wild part about Inglourious Basterds is that something a lot like that actually happened. During World War II, there really was a secret mission that could have come straight out of a movie script. It was called Operation Greenup, and it was run by the OSS, the early version of the CIA. But instead of Brad Pitt and a crew of Nazi scalping Americans, this real-life mission was carried out by just 3 men, 2 Jewish refugees living in Brooklyn, and 1 German officer who'd turned against Hitler. The refugees were Friedrich Meyer and Hans Weinberg, both of whom had escaped Europe after the Nazis took over. They'd lost everything, and when the US offered them the chance to go back and fight, they didn't think twice. They parachuted right into Nazi-controlled Austria, landing in freezing mountains with nothing but fake IDs, radios, and nerves of steel. Once they landed, they connected with Franz Weber, a German officer who had turned against the Nazis after seeing what they were really doing. He knew the land, the people, and exactly how the enemy worked. With him on their side, the 3 of them became this sharp, fearless little team, not soldiers charging into battle, but spies quietly taking the war apart from the inside. Their goal? To spy on German troop movements, track military trains through the Alps, and send all that intel back to the Allies in Italy. It was dangerous beyond belief. They lived undercover, constantly changing disguises, sneaking through enemy checkpoints, and sending coded radio messages at night. Eventually, Meyer was captured by the Gestapo and tortured. But here's where it gets unbelievable. He didn't just survive. He managed to convince the Nazis in Innsbruck to surrender the city peacefully to the Americans before the war even ended. So yeah, Tarantino turned it into a wild revenge story with explosions and movie stars, but the real Operation Greenup? It was quieter, smarter, and just as brave. 3 men, deep behind enemy lines, outsmarting the Nazi war machine. That's not fiction. That's history that was almost too good for Hollywood not to steal. The real mission. In the movie, the Bastards' big mission, Operation Kino, is straight out of Tarantino's wildest dreams. Their plan? Sneak into a movie premiere in Paris where Hitler and all the top Nazi leaders are attending, and blow the place sky high. One night, one explosion, one crazy plan to end the war. It's loud, bold, and totally Tarantino. But in real life, the Bastards mission looked nothing like that. The real team wasn't blowing up theaters or taking out Hitler. Their job was way quieter, but honestly, way more impressive. They were spies working on a secret mission called Operation Greenup, and instead of shooting Nazis, they were outsmarting them. Their main target was the Brenner Pass, a key railway route between Austria and Italy that the Nazis used to move troops, weapons, and supplies. The Allies had bombed it again and again, but somehow the trains just kept running. So the team's job was to figure out how the Nazis were pulling it off. They spent weeks sneaking around enemy territory, watching rail traffic, counting trains, tracking what was being moved, and secretly sending all that information back to the OSS, the early version of the CIA in Italy. And here's where it gets genius. To hide their reports, they used a Brooklyn map as a secret code. They laid it over Austria's Tyrol region and renamed every location using New York street names. So if they radioed that something's happening on Flatbush, it really meant something's happening at a Nazi depot in the Alps. The Germans could intercept their messages all day long. They'd never figure it out. Many people tried to assassinate Hitler. So, Hitler dying in a movie theater? Total fiction. But the funny thing is, people really did spend years trying to kill him, and not just a few. Historians count more than 40 different assassination attempts. It's like every few months, someone new thought, okay, this time, we've got him. Spoiler, they never did. One of the earliest tries was back in 1932, when someone tried to poison him at a Berlin hotel. Then came Beppo Romer, a German army officer who hated what Hitler was doing to his country. He plotted to take him out, got caught, was thrown in a concentration camp, and was later executed. Tough luck. Then there's Georg Elser, a carpenter who came the closest to pulling off something that could have been straight out of Tarantino's imagination. In 1939, he planted a bomb inside a Munich beer hall where Hitler was giving a speech. It went off exactly as planned, except Hitler had left 13 minutes earlier. 13. The man missed history's biggest explosion by basically a bathroom break. And of course, there's the most famous one, Operation Valkyrie in 1944. Colonel Klaus von Stauffenberg, a war hero turned rebel, placed a bomb inside a meeting room right under Hitler's table. The bomb went off, destroyed the room, killed a few people, but Hitler survived with just torn trousers and some burns. Stauffenberg was executed the next day. By the time the war ended, Hitler had escaped every single attempt. No dramatic theater explosions, no bullets flying, just endless failed plots. In the end, surrounded by defeat, he took his own life in a bunker under Berlin. So yeah, Inglourious Basterds may have rewritten history, but honestly, after so many close calls, maybe Hitler really did deserve to go out in a fiery Tarantino-style ending. Film as a tool of propaganda. That whole part in Inglourious Basterds where Goebbels is obsessed with his movie premiere, fancy theater, red carpet, everyone dressed up while secretly plotting murder, might seem over the top, but honestly, it's not far from the truth. The Nazis really did treat film like one of their biggest weapons. Joseph Goebbels, who was basically Hitler's PR guy, was completely obsessed with movies. He believed film was the best way to control how people thought, not by lecturing them, but by entertaining them. In his mind, a great propaganda film didn't feel like propaganda. It made you laugh, cry, cheer, and then quietly made you believe what he wanted you to. Creepy, right? Under Goebbels, the Nazis controlled every part of the film industry. Every script, every actor, every frame had to fit the party's message. Some movies were straight-up propaganda, like The Eternal Jew, which spread hateful lies about Jewish people. Others, like Triumph of the Will, turned Hitler into a larger-than-life hero, with sweeping shots of crowds cheering and dramatic music that made the whole thing feel like a blockbuster. And that's what makes the theater sequence in Inglourious Basterds hit even harder. It's not just movie magic, it's a dark reflection of how the Nazis actually used cinema to sell their lies. But before you go, don't forget to hit subscribe. We've got a lot more movie secrets coming your way.